Thanks for staying tuned to the front burners. Let's look at what's playing out in the petroleum industry in Nigeria. So the Dangote refinery has announced suspension of sale of petroleum products to domestic markets, domestic marketers in Nigeria in Naira. What's going to be the implication of that? Before that happened, prior to that, there was according to NNPCL, the announcement of a renegotiation of the Naira for crude deal between NNPCL and domestic refineries, in this case, Dangote refinery. So the initial Naira for crude deal that began in October is to end in the month of March. So the NNPCL says that they've opened renegotiation on that agreement, but Dangote now is coming up to say they are suspending the sales of petroleum products to domestic marketers in Nigeria in Naira, so that they do not have a mismatch between payment for crude and then revenue coming for the petroleum products. Doc?
Well, I think I can be qualified now to be called a prophet.
Okay.
Because you remember yesterday I was telling you that there are questions we are not asking in Nigeria. When you see we were selling petrol at 1,000 and buying with foreign exchange. And then, of course, now the dynamics has not changed. And we're seeing this price struggle and war. And that was just a precursor to the announcement that came that, of course, they're saying, look, we're selling crude to us in dollars, so we will also sell in dollar, because I was telling you, the challenge of this is the fact that you are going to see a situation where you are pushing the refiners to go to black market to go and source their dollars for importation. So where are they going to find this dollar? And don't forget, there's a lucrative market at the backyard. At the beginning of the week, we spoke about 8,000 petrol in Benin Republic. So we have to make our choice where we need to be. And I think this is where those who manages NNPC, like I insist, they need to be really queried by the government, because the rationale for some of the decisions that they are taking, they don't fit logic. They don't fit logic. And you know, in the triangle of trust, the drivers of trust, there are 3 legs to drivers of trust. I mentioned that on Monday. You have authenticity, you have logic, and then you have empathy. Now, on these 3 legs, you see that NNPCL has not done well. Yes, we have a challenge, and that is how to manage our macroeconomic difficulties, which we have passed through some time because we are not earning so much money. So the arrangement was to see how we can do well, that I can walk into a bank and say, I need Forex for a travel, and the bank can have to say to me. Up to now, that has not resolved. So common sense would have just suggested that, look, this arrangement of the Naira for crude continue until we have excess of dollar in our environment before we can also be pushing that agenda. And number 2, at the time this agreement was reached, we're not even producing up to 1.5 million barrels. Now we are doing up to 1.8 million barrels. So why can't we sell part and move a lot of part? But of course, you know, in that conversation, they said, oh, our obligation to those who had paid for crude is up to 2030. And therefore, between now and 2030, now, but also look at it. By the time you were entering into that agreement, around 2022, 2023, we are not producing up to 1 million barrels per day. You see, there are a lot of things that these guys are not telling us. And I think it is the responsibility of the president to really call the group managing director of NNPC so that they can put the figures on the table and people can see what is happening. So, you can't ask a man to buy crude from you in dollar and then sell it to your people in Naira. That would be unfair, because anybody who is coming to equity, his hands must be very clean. In this case, I don't think the hands of NNPC is clean.
So I think that NNPC has only lent credence to the speculations of those in some quarters that this is a fight when they talked about renegotiating the crude for Naira, Naira for crude deal. And then NNPC said it is not about any war or fight. It is just that they want to renegotiate and give all the many reasons because of how much of crude that you've sold in advance and all of that. Because NNPCL knew, of course, what would be the reaction of Dangote refinery, what would be the consequence of renegotiating that agreement. If someone is buying in dollars, you don't expect the person to sell in Naira because you give the person more work to do trying to get Forex to even pay you. And then it's really a mismatch, as Dangote refinery had stated. So this inconsistency in policy, how do you start a policy? And then after 6 months, you say you want to renegotiate. What has changed that calls for a renegotiation of the deal? Do you want to review price upwards? Do you want to review price downwards? Does it necessarily need a suspension of the policy? How long do you need to renegotiate it? Now, by saying you want to renegotiate, did NNPCL not consider that they may actually be truncating the flow of ease of Dangote refinery or other refineries that are coming up to have access to crude and be able to sell? The market was experiencing some form of stability where we had begun to see price fluctuation reflecting the forces of reflecting market forces. But when we go back to this era of Forex trade in Nigeria, which is even wrong in the first place, this is a country that has its legal tender, as Naira as legal tender, yet we are making trade in foreign currency. The excuse of, oh, we need Forex for this, should some consideration, where is that? You know, when America is having protectionism, in Nigeria we are having the reverse. So we are thinking first of the external market than the domestic market at the detriment of Nigerians. Because what it means is that as Dangote reverts to selling crude in Forex, expect that the prices of PMS would go up because the marketers are going to calculate the exchange rates. Expect that what has the sort of steadiness that we've seen in the Forex market, because the pressure on the Forex market has dropped, that will change. You're going to see more demand now for Forex, which will mean that the exchange rate of the Naira to the dollar would also increase. The Naira would depreciate more against the dollar because you now have more demand for the dollar and less demand for the Naira. So why are we having this inconsistency in policy and we are distorting growth? We are distorting improvement, all for selfish gain. Now, if the NNPCL had the refineries, their own refineries working, they would not be so bothered about Dangote refinery producing. The competition there would be fair. But right now, because the only advantage NNPCL has over Dangote refinery is to monopolize and make it difficult for Dangote refinery to have access to crude. But they also do not care, or let me say they forget, that the implication of that is that you are going to make access to PMS more expensive in Nigeria, more difficult, and then eroding totally the gains of the last 6 months.
Now, a few things. The Naira for crude exchange policy is one of the best policies. I don't know if it started in this administration or the previous administration adopted it as well. But I think it's one of the best policies. One of the reasons why I termed it as one of the best policies of the current administration is simple. The ambitious goals that this administration has set for itself is, to say the least, if this policy is defeated, it will never achieve those goals. The ambitious goal of setting the daily production 2 million barrels per day of crude for Nigeria, this administration will never get there if this policy is defeated. The ambition of trying to beat down inflation to about 15%, this administration will never get there, let alone before we start talking about the debt servicing, the budget deficit that we need to start working on. Now, the Naira for crude arrangement is a great plan. The reason why I said that is because it has enormous benefits for Nigerians and for the economy. Because I remember when Dangote was being interviewed by Bloomberg, and he said in Saudi Arabia, the culture or the mentality of the people why they have oil in that country is that, look, it is a free gift from God. And so therefore, you're not supposed to even tax the people. They're not supposed to experience some form of difficulty in accessing that particular product. And they're not supposed to be, going through the burden of trying to pay more for it, even though the government will defend itself that it's more expensive. We need to have local refineries and exchange Naira for crude for them. This will mean that about 40% will defeat our dependency on the dollar and 40%, and that means the reverse is also the case. We will strengthen the Naira about 40% when it comes to foreign exchange. That is one. Two, the ambition of meeting the 2 million barrels per day. The Dangote refinery has the capacity of 650,000 barrels production per day. In October 2024, the government of Nigeria reached an agreement with Dangote refinery that, look, we are going to supply you 380,000 barrels for crude. However, as we move on to 2024, 2025, we are going to increase it to 450,000 barrels. Just a month different. In November 2024, Dangote refinery, petroleum production, they started complaining that, look, the government has not been living up to date with regards to its own responsibility. We can't even, they are own part of the obligation to supply us 380,000 barrels per day. They are not meeting that obligations, and it is not good for business. In the midst of this, there is this fight in public domain, and the country wants to attain self-sufficiency when it comes to crude production in the country, and they looked at the operation of Dangote refinery and other local refineries in the country, and they think, okay, we can explore these options to make sure we start to attain at least to a specific level regards to self-sufficiency in crude. If this particular policy is defeated, that means the Naira that has been getting some form of strength by way of the Naira to crude exchange will begin to go back to the status quo, where the dollar will, at this moment in time, can move beyond the 1,500 Naira threshold and upwards. So, still in the same vein, what other benefit have we attained? Local production, like you rightly stated, we are beginning to get to some level of stability. And to the extent that Dangote is even exporting out of this country. But now, if the government completely rescinds its action in this Naira for crude, Dangote at the moment is beginning to buy from the United States of America, according to Bloomberg data. Dangote at the moment is beginning to contact Angola and Algeria. That means it's not going to purchasing from these climes with Naira. It's going to be purchasing from these climes with the dollar. Yeah, if it does that, what will happen?
Yeah, but
the Naira will fall continuously.
Beyond what is going to happen, of course, we understand our peculiarity and our own situation. Yes, it's a private business, and of course, you can do business like any other person. That's acceptable. But of course, within the convenience of what is happening around. We also need to know, as an NPC, be able to actually position itself in, number one, to be able to supply the local market, that we are not going to be relying excessively, because, of course, this really necessarily may not have to lead to increase in pump price in the immediate, because there are two factors in here. Last week, it was reported that those who are bringing in petrol into the country, the landing cost has dropped. So competition is going to be there. So because the price of crude in the international market has also gone down. But you see, my own way of looking at it is the fact that can we have a way, just like you said earlier, American is protecting American business. Can those of us in government also be thinking how we can protect local industry and don't allow them to put money on the ground and they go into extinction? Not even minding that this was supposed to be an agreement initially between the government of Nigeria and Dangote in the first place. We were supposed to have 20% stake in that project.
It's
And
now 7. It's no longer 20.
Yeah, but even 7 is something. That's a revenue to the country. That at least you have 7. Those who become chairman of companies, some of them have 10% stake in the company.
What even
Some
makes
of them have
it?
7%.
What makes someone the MD of a bank's board?
7% is a whole fortune, and we must look at it as part and parcel that we are part owner of this project, so we must not allow it to fall. And I think it's from that point really that we must be looking at what all this agreement is all about. But I'm also looking at they're also playing the devil's advocate. We put this forward, and then of course, because there's a lucrative market at the backyard. There's a lucrative market at the backyard, and you must not take that away from the calculation. So if there's a lucrative market in the backyard, and of course we must be looking into, you remember last week when the junta in Niger ate his humble pie and came to Nigeria to beg. Yes, of course. And what happened? They said, okay, let's give them 300 trucks.
Just like that.
So, and I think that must be from the NNPCL. So,
just like
so
that.
these guys also are seeing opportunities in this market. So we can also exploit and do business and really make big money. At that place, nobody will be regulating what you are doing. The government need the product and they will buy it at a competitive price. So
don't you also think that if there is big markets outside of Nigeria now, Dangote refinery may just be thinking it's more profitable for the refinery to sell outside of Nigeria.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they don't
we'll come back
moral
to
burden.
the time when we experience scarcity and when we are left at the mercy of the petroleum importers.
Yeah, but because they know that you are going to take camera there and say Dangote is taking petrol to Niger, taking petrol to Cameroon. So they have to play the devil's advocate to tell you that, look, we are not buying crude in dollars, so we are going to sell in dollars. So if these local people are not bringing dollars, so we sell to the person who have
but they will be justified if you do that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Then they have offloaded their moral burden to say, oh, you are in Nigeria, you are supposed to be serving Nigerian public. So they're telling you right now, the Nigerian government agency is not serving us well. So that when we do what we are doing, don't cry that we are punishing and we are not representing ourselves very well. We're only responding to the things that we are saying. So this is, for me, where the NPCL, and it's just not NPCL, we have said this over time, that the biggest problem in Nigeria is how interagency synergy help to actually drive progress and prosperity. Now, what you're doing is that CBN is working hard to ensure that we have this thing in the market, and this is what NNPCL is doing here, because it's thinking as a revenue center, and therefore, we have to make our money irrespective of what CBN is doing. But that cannot drive us to progress. As long as we continue to operate in silos, we will remain where we are. But if we must move ahead, there must be a global policy that coordinates all these agencies of government. All the MDAs must come together to say, this is a focus, where we're going. So that if there is a kind of a roadblock that one agency is putting on the road of the other one, then, of course, the man who called the shot should be able to call people to order and tell them what to do in this particular situation so that we can have the best of society to live in.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Who is the Minister of Petroleum Resources? Is it Mr. President? If it's Mr. President, he is responsible.
Lokobori.
Eh? Lokobori?
Yes.
Minister of State.
Is he not Minister of State? He's Minister of State.
Yes.
So,
but he takes orders.
He takes orders. So if the President is the Minister of Oil, Petroleum Resources, this is his responsibility. And please, we will not get our eyes off that. Mr. President, your ambitious goals, you are making policy to truncate these ambitious goals, sir. And you need to put things right and set the record straight. If Dangote succeeds with is going to bed with Algeria, with Angola, and with the United States of America, facilitating those transactions in dollars, he is not under obligation to make sure he sells that in Naira in Nigeria here. In fact, I believe Dangote is going to take over the market from the federal government to our neighbors, our contiguous states, including this Niger Republic we are talking about. And Niger Republic will want to look at it as a business to want to deal with a private citizen the way it is than to deal with the government of Nigeria. So we must, Mr. President must take a very careful look at his policies. The Naira gaining its strength is just going to go back completely to the status quo. And the people are going to, no, we talked about issues,
but
we also talked about...
actually released a press release that it was actually not, because you see, this is a thing way, and I think what we're doing is see that the presidency attention must be drawn to this. That yes, they came out to say that, no, that agreement cannot stop.
So
but
why is there no synergy between what
now NPCL, which is supposed to be, these are issues. I like our environment because there's so much specialty in terms of knowing how to blackmail people. So you say, okay, I'm not doing well because there's so much interruption from the presidency. We are supposed to be an independent body, but we are getting directives from Mr. President because this is a business. It's not an MDA for social service. We are supposed to be making profit. And that is where we should interrogate the intentions of those who are driving the project. But again, we cannot also remove political calculations away from some of the things that are happening. Since the days of Emefiele, we have seen people who hold very big institutions in Nigeria can be so emboldened to challenge the powers that be.
But I don't think we've gotten to that level. Maybe it's just, I'm not holding very for the president. I'm just wanting to believe that perhaps the president is watching to see how this plays. But now that Dangote has come up with their position, Dangote Refinery has come up with a position saying that they would suspend sales of petroleum products in Naira, then it is now the responsibility of the president not to watch anymore, but to wait in because of the consequences of these actions, what it would mean for Nigerian economy. We cannot be talking about reducing inflation. We cannot be talking about achieving growth. We cannot be talking about attracting investors or investment in Nigeria. We cannot be talking about ease of doing business, improving in Nigeria, where there are hurdles. There are policies that stand as hurdles against business progress in Nigeria. Let's not forget that the world is watching. Other business investors are watching. Licenses have been given to other companies to build refineries in Nigeria. They're watching too and seeing the Dangote refinery experience.
Yeah, but
and then you are building fear already. So it means that you need to have a lot of political strength. You need to have a lot of financial strength to be able to succeed owning, operating a refinery in Nigeria.
Blessing,
with what NNPCL is doing, it is time NNPCL is called to order.
Yeah.
This is not business anymore.
No.
This is becoming something else.
See, we have to also look at a lot of all factors in this conversation. Don't forget that Dangote Refinery sued NNPCL for $100 billion for, is it million naira or so, for giving license for people to import fuel. This week, they just got a major breakthrough in that case, that the court said and ruled that NNPCL cannot raise an objection to the suits, rather that they should respond to the suits. And if they are not responding to the suit, that they will give them judgments. So that's what I'm saying. We are a nation that we know how to do plenty of blackmails. And these are the issues that we also must be very sensitive, because there are a lot of things on the table that are not as clear as they should be. But the point is that, yes, they don't want to, and that was why you remember he was accused of a monopolistic tendency. That the only reason why he's doing all of this is to see that to get monopoly, so that we don't play into a very dangerous rain.
In this matter,
it becomes very difficult for us to pull out.
If you look at it that way.
So these are, for me, all the issues that must be looked at objectively. And I think Mr. President must be looking. And they are interested in this matter, that, of course, all the necessary suggestions that need to be made to the board to finally say, okay, we have ratified or not. That they said, of course, if you see it, that until the negotiation is over, you know, because negotiation is going on. So what the means of those negotiations, Nigerians are yet to know, because nobody is speaking about the content of those negotiations.
It's a closed-door negotiation.
That is happening. But I think common sense suggests that NNPCL should extend naturally, even without negotiation, since the factors that were really aggravating the foreign exchange challenge in the market were all associated to fuel importation. So that we can reduce that pressure in the meantime and then leave the politics of all this conversation around.
Doc, let me respond to what you, the issue you raised regarding Dangote refinery filing a suit against NNPC for giving licenses to new petrol importers. So, there are two sides to this. One, the market has to be free and you need to allow competition. On the other hand, a country also needs to protect its own, protect indigenous companies. In this case, protect indigenous refineries. It just so happens that for now, the only operational private refinery in Nigeria is Dangote Refinery. Let's backtrack. During the time, the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, when he wanted to encourage rice farmers, there was a ban on rice importation, so that you are not asking people to put in their money into rice production. At the same time, you are allowing those who are importing foreign rice, choke them. And then the rice will come in maybe cheaper than the locally produced rice. You are making it difficult for them to thrive in business because the foreign rice producers have the advantage over them because of they have less cost of production. Now, if Dangote had filed a suit against NNPCL for awarding licenses or for giving licenses to other refineries, would have said, oh, you really want to monopolize the market. But this is fuel importers, petroleum importers. Should we be encouraging more importation when we should be encouraging more production?
So for me, in this specific issue is this. Sometimes when Doc mentioned that about the filing of the suit, I saw it yesterday that the obligation for the government to respond. I'm like, okay, well, that is good. Before an entry of a new player into that sector has been operating, and there are diverse players in that sector. The players in that sector that preceded the new entrant, you also have both local players and those who are purchasing the product from abroad, from outside the country. So your entry into that market does not give you the authority or the power by way of deal to stop the regulatory authority from giving you a preferential treatment.
It is not preferential.
No, I know. Where I'm heading is this. The government, when they said we are going to do Naira for crude arrangement, Dangote was not the only party. Other local refineries and modular refineries are also party to that arrangement. Dangote is just one of it, though we can say it's the biggest player because of the capacity.
The one producing for now.
Yes. So in that specific case, I'm looking out for those little players whom that specific policy, if we bring it to a halt, that is not going to be operational anymore. How are they going to survive to access Forex to purchase this product from abroad? And if they succeeded in doing that, monopoly is going to come in as well. Because if they are going to meet up that financial obligation to sell at a price that Nigerians will be willing to buy, they cannot contend with another very big player who has all the financial chest to both purchase it from abroad or source a little of its product from internally, then sell at a price, using the price as an instrument in this particular time to beat the modular refineries completely out of business. We can say maybe in the government's own decision in want to nullify that, the local players are going to suffer the most. So I think it is best
now.
I think it's best.
Monopoly.
Yeah, the government, yes, it can be seen that way.
Again, if you look at it, because I try to put some of all these things in context.
The matter seems very dicey.
That is why you want and the interest that, look, you don't play into the hands of...
Somebody somewhere must be laughing at what is happening right now.
But
I remember,
if this is a chess game, you know,
somebody somewhere
it's
is
being
laughing
played
right
by
now.
who we're not seeing.
Yeah, because I remember vividly when the delegation from the Catholic Conference of Bishops met with Mr. President. One of the jokes he threw at them was the fact that, don't you see the way NPC and Dangote, they are fighting, and Nigerians are benefiting? So you can imagine that, of course, that some benefits are actually coming in from here, because the natural thing to do, our in-law says that the only language he loves in the dictionary is tariff.
Who's that you're engaging? Donald Trump.
So the only language our in-law likes in the dictionary is tariff. So why do nations put tariff? To put tariff to say that when goods that are coming from outside enter into your country, they cannot compete with what is done locally. So the local should not be afraid, because there are a lot that is involved. Because those who are bringing the petrol to you, they are going to ship it to your environment. So the cost of logistics for you is lower. So you can remain everly competitive. But in this case, you are looking at it from the point of view that, yes, you are getting crude from Nigeria. And I think that should be, even if you're going to buy it in dollar or pounds, buy it from Nigeria. You are not going to ship it. Now, the guy who is also buying crude, maybe in Angola or buying in America, is going to process it, but he's going to also ship it from that place to this point. The cost of transportation, because by the time it gets to the port here, you're also going to put it and rent some tank farm where you are going to offload these things. And from renting of tank farm, you are going to use all this thing. But you have access here locally that reduces your cost, that makes you to be as competitive as possible. That's what I'm saying.
Not so competitive, because Dangote is also sourcing elsewhere. So he too is paying. I think the compensation or the relief for him is that he's getting some supply for Nigeria, but not all the supply.
Yeah, but you see, that's what I'm saying. But it's an added advantage for him that you are refining here and you are not paying two-way to take the crude, buy it there, bring it here. So, but what I'm emphasizing is the fact that, yes, there are a lot of issues that we also must have to be very careful. Like they say, if you want to kill a rat inside the pot, you have to be, especially earthen pot, you have to be careful so that you don't break the earthen pot while killing the rat. So these are the things that, yes, of course, those I sit up must also look at very critically to see, oh, are there some element of blackmail here, so that we understand how to deal with those blackmail, and then we're able to move forward. But I say the problem, which fundamentally is not too good for us, is the fact that Shona here is not speaking enough. I think he should come to our studio.
We should bring
so that he can have opportunity to explain to Nigeria and tell them what NNPC is actually doing. Because the communication is bland. People cannot understand what is being said.
And it leaves room for lots of
speculation.
speculation.
Yes, no speculation.
When you have speculation,
so there should be
you
no
would have
speculation.
misinformation,
Yeah.
disinformation, which would just help to further the agenda of certain parties.
The thing is, no party is coming out with clean hands.
It is obvious that there's
but
more.
these people are talking.
There is more there. There is
talking,
more
and
than
of course,
meets
like
the
this,
eye.
like they say, it is the person that is crying that attracts sympathy. You know, as a child. And so when
I think you've been fiery on idioms.
A lot.
You need to explain it to Nigerians.
And I'm going to borrow one from him, that if you want to kill the rat that's in the pot,
Effing
you have
pot.
the effing pot, you have to be careful so that you don't break the pot.
And
I
first,
think
it was
in
a goat
trying-
and salt.
Yes, that goat and salt got me really. So, Doc, in trying to kill the rat and also ensure that the effing pot is not
it's
broken.
safe, yeah.
So I think that What NNPCL should do is what works for all the local players.
Yes, I think so.
Because if in targeting...
They have to be nationalistic.
Yes.
Beyond profit and gain.
In targeting one player, you will break the pot.
Yes.
So if the Naira for crude deal is sustained, you are doing what is healthy for all the local players.
Yes.
Now, if you want to target one player, at the end of the day, you would have helped that one player. Because that one player has the financial muscle, the political muscle to match you whatever way you were coming. And who are those to suffer when two elephants fight?
It's
the
the
grass.
yeah.
The grass here is Nigerians. Nigerians will suffer for it.
We will not suffer going forward. So we will not
going
allow
up.
elephants to fight.
Forex market will become unstable. We'll find that the Naira is depreciating. Inflation will rise. Forget about the rebasing. At the end of the day, that would mean nothing if we do not begin to look critically at policies that are implemented. It doesn't matter whether that policy is being made by one agency of government. The ripple effect will be so much that it becomes major at the end of the day. So I think that it's time for the president to watch clearly what NNPCL is doing, what is going on in the petroleum industry, what is behind that we are not seeing clearly. All of this should be investigated, and then what works for Nigeria as a nation should happen. If we've learned nothing at all from Donald Trump, we should learn that protecting national interest is important. At the end of the day, what you're pursuing outside will begin to pursue you. Look at how other countries are beginning to talk with Donald Trump over the tariff hike. Okay, let's see what works. Let's see how we can have
Give
this.
us some time.
Thank you for acknowledging our in-law.
All right. Many thanks for being a part of the front burners today. We liked how you participated by commenting on the different issues that were discussed on the show today. It's not done for the entire week. We still have tomorrow, Friday. So it's going to be a special edition on Friday. We ask that you join the show 7 a.m. tomorrow so we can do better at our job of making change happen. I'm Blessing Eichie. I've been on the show with two great gentlemen, Dr. Idahosa Osamhanze and, of course, Oyinpreye Krumale. Let them say their goodbyes. Doc.
Oh, okay. Yes. And now I'm just going to go with the last word with what Chooks said. The Super Eagles are playing tomorrow. Please win, please. Because if they don't, like we're done for the World Cup, maybe Chooks will come and tell us a lot about that tomorrow. So please, we need them to win. Like he said, pray for them. Just do that.
Well, Idahosa Osamhanze is my name. Blessing has been hitting up the issues that shapes the economy. It's been a great day. But a good shout out to Tosin Omongo Samson on her birthday today. We wish you very well for all you do. We celebrate you. We're coming for the cake. We do see you again tomorrow, Friday.